Wait for a moment. Take a slow breath in, hold it for a second. Now breathe out because something has changed. And if you have been feeling it too, then stay with this until the very end. If one person has been coming into your thoughts again and again without any clear reason, if their energy feels closer even when there is complete silence, if your heart keeps sensing something that your eyes still cannot confirm, then this message may have reached you at exactly the right moment. Something has been building quietly behind the scenes, not sometime in the future, not someday, but right now. The person connected to your emotions is slowly losing control over what they truly feel for you. And the next step they take may reveal everything they have been trying so hard to keep hidden. On the outside, nothing seems dramatic. Life continues as usual. Days pass by. Silence stretches between moments. But beneath that silence, something has been growing for a very long time. Their thoughts continue returning to you. Their emotions keep becoming stronger. Their resistance keeps getting weaker. And the surprising part is this. The more they tried to create distance, the deeper they fell into the truth of this connection. So listen carefully, because before this message ends, you may finally understand why your intuition has become stronger lately, why your spirit has felt restless, and why the story between you feels as though it is standing at the edge of an important turning point. They have tried to stay in control. They tried to appear calm. They tried convincing themselves that this was only a temporary feeling, only attraction, only curiosity, only something that would slowly disappear with time. But it never disappeared. It stayed with them. It followed them into quiet nights, random memories, crowded places where nothing should have reminded them of you, and songs that suddenly carried a much deeper meaning than before. Even ordinary moments slowly began carrying your presence. They continued moving through life as though nothing had changed inside them. But in reality, everything had changed. That is why the energy feels different now. What they once buried deep inside is becoming much harder to hide. Every time they pushed this connection away, it returned even stronger. Every time they tried to ignore it, something deep within them kept pulling them back toward you. Little by little, what once seemed manageable became something they could no longer deny. Some people enter another person's life and leave behind only a memory. But others arrive and completely transform someone's emotional world. That is exactly what happened here. You were never meant to be a small part of their heart. You were never meant to be someone they could easily forget. Deep inside, they already understand that now, and the realization unsettles them more than they want to admit. On the surface, they may still appear distant. They may still pretend everything is fine. They may continue moving slowly, hesitating, or hiding behind silence. But beneath that calm appearance, there has been a private emotional storm. Every delayed reply, every step backward, every mixed signal, every sudden change in energy was never emptiness. It was inner conflict. It was someone experiencing real emotions while not knowing how to carry those feelings without completely changing the direction of their life. Because genuine connection asks for something difficult. It asks for honesty. It asks for growth. It asks people to leave behind old habits, old patterns, and old fears. That is exactly what frightened them. Moving toward you honestly would mean they could no longer hide from themselves. They would have to face everything this connection awakened inside them. They would have to accept that this bond is different. They would have to let go of the version of themselves that stays emotionally guarded and distant. Part of them was deeply afraid of that. They feared that once they stepped into this truth, nothing inside them would ever return to the way it used to be. But something has started changing now. Fear is no longer leading as strongly as before. Desire continues growing, longing keeps becoming stronger, and the cost of remaining silent is becoming heavier than the fear of speaking openly. When silence becomes more painful than vulnerability, real movement begins. You may already be noticing small signs, even if you do not completely trust them yet. Their name enters your thoughts more often. Their memory appears without warning. You sense their energy during unexpected moments, whether it is day or night. The connection feels alive, even without communication. That is not simply imagination. It is emotional movement happening beneath the surface. They are beginning to experience your absence in a much deeper way now, not only as physical distance, but as genuine loss. And that changes everything. Because when someone realizes that losing you would hurt far more than opening their heart, their emotional control slowly begins to weaken. What once felt safe no longer feels safe. The distance that once protected them now feels cold and empty. The silence that once gave them control now feels heavy and difficult to carry. You are no longer just someone they think about from time to time. You have become emotionally present within their inner world in a way they cannot completely escape. A single memory is enough to pull them back toward you. A quiet moment can bring every feeling rushing back. Even a simple pause during the day can break down the emotional control they worked so hard to build. And if you have been feeling this pressure too, if your own intuition keeps telling you something is changing, do not ignore it too quickly. Sometimes awareness arrives before reality fully reveals itself. Something is growing on both sides of this connection. That is why they have seemed inconsistent. One moment they appear close, the next they seem distant. One moment they are open, the next they pull away again. It is not because they feel nothing, it is because they feel far more than they know how to handle. Emotional distance is often misunderstood. It is not always a sign that someone does not care. Very often, it is the complete opposite. It is caring deeply without having clear direction. It is feeling intensely without fully understanding what to do next. You did not simply enter their life as another attraction. You touched emotional places within them that had remained silent for many years. You challenged walls they believed would never fall. You made old defenses feel weak. You awakened honesty inside them. You awakened hope inside them. And hope can feel frightening for someone who has spent years expecting very little. At first, they believed logic would help them let go. They believed time would make everything easier. They believed distance would slowly reduce your importance. But instead, the opposite happened. Distance made your presence even clearer. Absence made your impact even stronger. Many people create emotional distance to protect themselves. They build daily routines. They put up emotional walls. They try not to depend on anyone too deeply. Then one genuine connection enters their life and quietly breaks through all those defenses without force or warning. Suddenly, the old way of feeling safe no longer works. That is what happened here. You passed through the walls they spent years building simply by being sincere. Now they cannot fully return to the emotional numbness they once relied on. That is why their resistance became even stronger. It was the last form of control they felt they still had. But denying something becomes exhausting when a part of them already knows the truth. And now they are tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of carrying feelings they cannot explain away. Tired of acting as if nothing has changed, when in reality, they have been deeply affected. One part of them wants to move closer to you. Another part is still afraid of being completely seen. One side wants certainty before taking a risk. The other side already understands that certainty will never come through silence. This inner conflict is becoming more difficult to carry every single day, and along with it, another feeling is beginning to grow: regret. It is not loud regret. It is a quiet realization that fear caused delays, and that something meaningful may have been pushed aside for too long. They replay moments differently now. They think about the things that were said, the words that were never spoken, the times you reached out, and the moments they pulled away. Through all of this reflection, your place in their emotional world is becoming clearer than ever before. As that clarity grows, so does the pressure they feel to respond. When someone can no longer deny what they truly feel, silence becomes heavier than taking action. Eventually, Everything they have been holding inside will need to come out in one way or another. They are beginning to understand that what you offered them was sincere. It carried care, patience, depth, and honesty. Instead of trusting those feelings, they resisted them. That realization humbles a person. It changes the way they remember everything. People often understand the value of something real only after distance shows them how empty life feels without it. They are feeling that emptiness now. Even when life around them seems full, something important still feels missing. That is why the emotional pressure inside them keeps growing. It is not because they suddenly became weak. It is because truth carries weight. Once the truth becomes heavier than fear, movement becomes almost impossible to stop. If you have felt that something has been changing beneath the surface, trust that feeling. If your intuition has become stronger lately, there may be a reason for it. Sometimes a heart reaches the point where holding everything inside hurts more than finally speaking the truth. That is the place they are slowly approaching now. When someone reaches that point after resisting for so long, they do not return with casual emotions. They come back carrying the weight of everything they almost lost. The thought of losing you for real has started to affect them in a much deeper way. It is no longer just the small idea that maybe one day things could change. It is the real possibility that you may heal, continue growing, move forward with your life, and stop leaving emotional space for them. That possibility has brought new clarity, because nothing reveals the truth more clearly than the fear of permanent loss. They are beginning to notice that you are changing without them. They see that you are learning from your experiences. They sense that you are becoming stronger during your own quiet moments. Instead of making them let go, this realization has made their feelings even stronger. It has forced them to understand that they do not simply fear being lonely. They fear a future without you in it. That is a very different kind of truth. It means you have become emotionally irreplaceable. Once someone realizes that, the walls of resistance cannot stay as strong as they once were. That is why they keep returning to thoughts of you. That is why your presence continues to stay in their heart. That is why they cannot completely disconnect, no matter how hard they try. Somewhere deep inside, the soul had already made its choice long before the mind stopped arguing. Now the mind is slowly losing that battle. As it does, the next step they take will carry more emotion than they ever expected. It may not be perfect. It may feel raw. It may come after a long period of hesitation. But it will never be empty. It will come from months of longing, quiet reflection, deep regret, and the growing understanding that every path away from you keeps leading them back to the same truth. They are also beginning to understand the cost of staying silent. Silence creates space. Delay creates distance. Fear creates missed opportunities. Now they wonder if what has been stretched so far can still be repaired. That question alone is making their sense of urgency grow stronger every day. They are paying closer attention now. They notice your energy. They listen carefully to your tone. They wonder if your heart still has room for them. They question whether they waited too long. They wonder if the bridge between the two of you still exists. These thoughts matter because people begin to move differently once they realize they are no longer guaranteed a place in the life of someone they truly love. Their energy is becoming more intentional, more thoughtful, and more genuine. Not because every fear has disappeared, but because the old way of handling everything is no longer working. The silence that once felt safe no longer brings comfort. It only brings pain. There is something important to remember here. This connection has not only been changing them, it has also been changing you. You have learned how to carry love without chasing after it. You have learned how to survive uncertainty without losing yourself. You have learned to trust what your heart feels, even when the outside world offered no clear proof. You have also learned that your value does not disappear simply because someone else remains silent. That growth is important. If this next chapter truly begins, it will not begin from desperation or fantasy. It will begin from awareness. It will begin with two people who have both been transformed by everything this connection asked them to face. There comes a moment in every deep connection when resistance finally reaches its limit. Not because of one dramatic event, but because of everything that slowly builds over time. Longing grows, memories grow stronger, absence becomes heavier. The pressure of pretending continues to build until one day, staying away becomes harder than taking the risk of moving closer. That is where they are heading now. They tried to distract themselves. They tried to move on in their mind. They tried to live as though this connection could simply be placed in a box and forgotten. Slowly, every one of those efforts failed. The truth beneath all those attempts has become impossible to ignore. You were never someone who could be replaced. That realization comes with shock. Once someone understands that what they lost cannot simply be found somewhere else, urgency naturally begins to grow. It is not always loud, it is not always easy to see, but it is powerful. It appears during sleepless nights, unexpected moments of reflection, and quiet thoughts that ask, what if I lose them forever? That quiet question has been growing inside them, and it is changing who they are. Your absence no longer feels like empty space. It feels like real emotional loss. Emotional loss has a way of bringing honesty to the surface, especially for someone who once believed there would always be more time. Now they are beginning to see clearly that time changes people. Silence changes relationships. Hearts move forward. Lives continue. If they keep waiting, they may watch the door close on something that was always meant to be faced instead of avoided. That realization is stronger than ever before. So when the next step finally comes, do not expect it to feel small. It may begin quietly, but the emotions behind it will be anything but small. It could be a message that carries more honesty than ever before. It could be a conversation that reaches a deeper level than anything you have shared in the past. It could be a moment when they stop hiding behind distance, jokes, or carefully chosen words, and finally allow their true feelings to be seen because, emotionally, they are moving closer to complete surrender. And surrender, after such a long inner battle, does not look like games or confusion. It looks like honesty, even if that honesty arrives with a shaking voice.